Hi, I think I'm live. Never quite know with YouTube. I think I'm live. Hi, welcome if you're watching live, and welcome if you're watching on the replay as well. Can you hear me okay? Is my audio working? Let me double check, because I've done these before and no one could hear me. So if you're watching live, it'd be super helpful if you could just pop, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can hear you. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't want to do the whole thing assuming that you could and then realise at the end that you couldn't. Fantastic. Thank you so much for letting me know. So today I am talking about how to step into the world of freelancing with confidence. And we're going to keep it to quite a punchy 20 minutes. Okay, so hopefully you can eat your lunch while we're doing this. It'd be helpful if you had a piece of paper, maybe a pen to hand or notebook that you can just jot down things. I'm not doing any screen share or anything like that, so it's just me talking. So, but you can always watch this back after if there's something that you didn't catch. But hopefully this session is going to really help you feel empowered to navigate the ups and downs of freelance work, which is definitely up and down, and just to know that you're kind of not alone and that you can then worry less about what might be around the corner. And I'm also going to give you ideas for like your first 3 actionable steps. I'm going to help you identify those to really kind of kickstart things for you. If you've been freelancing a little while, this is still useful reminder. I like to go back to do these things. It's kind of like a muscle. We have to kind of keep training it. So it's helpful to kind of go back, revisit this stuff, even if you've been freelancing for a little while. However, if it's on your list of things that you wish to do or you're about to do it, hopefully this will be really useful sort of session. Okay, so I have a course called the Charity Freelancing course, and when people sign up for that, I ask them what their biggest fear is, what their biggest challenge is around the idea of going freelance. And the types of things that they say, and I'd be interested to know which of these you might resonate with, are like, how do I earn a good living? That's often quite high up there. How do I find work? How do I price my services? How do I define what my offer is? What do I offer? Is there enough work? How do I market, promote myself? How can I be sure that I'm doing everything kind of safe and like within regulations and kind of, terms and conditions and all of that type of stuff? How do I juggle finding new work versus doing the work? And how do I overcome those kind of feelings of imposter, the imposter feelings that we can often feel, and loneliness as well. So that can be another one that comes up, especially if you come from a big team in-house, you can maybe feel like, how am I going to find my network of people, and will I be lonely? So maybe jot down if you resonate with any of those. This is really going to sort of help you kind of start to address some of that stuff. And as I said, I'm going to help you identify the first 3 steps that you can take. The importance of taking action is that we assume that confidence comes from knowing how to do stuff, and often we can get so lost in those lists of like how to, I've got to go out and find all that stuff. I've got to do all the research. I've got to talk to hundreds of people. I have to, get all my invoices sorted and my software, and I have to get my contracts all sorted. And we think that that gives us confidence. What actually gives us confidence is the kind of just getting out there and taking action, because we often wait to feel ready. But what I say to my clients is that ready isn't a feeling, it's a decision. So you have to make a choice. You have to decide that you're going to go for this and start taking action now. Don't wait until you have all of your ducks in a row. Like you will never have all your ducks in a row. That's the point. So if you're waiting to get all that stuff sorted before you sort of take action, you're going to be waiting a really long time, basically. And what action actually allows us to do is get feedback, right? So once you take some action, you get some feedback. That feedback is going to help you feel a bit more confident. It's going to help you edit and tweak your ideas a little bit as well. But without taking that action, most of it's still stuck up here, and it's going to be kind of going around in loops in your head. So the receiving the feedback is a really, really important part of this. I like to sort of see myself as like a scientist, like, everything is a bit of an experiment. We try something over here, we see what the results are. If that doesn't work, we might try something over here. You can do a couple of tests in tandem, like an A/B sort of testing, but constantly kind of thinking about it in that way takes some of the pressure off it being right or wrong. Like there are so many different rights and wrongs. There are infinite solutions and infinite possibilities. Okay, so some of the benefits that freelancing is going to give you, and you may have already thought through a lot of these: flexibility over hours and location of where you can work, that real choice over projects and clients. It can maybe give you more diversity in terms of what you're actually working on than maybe you had when you were in-house. You might have had a very set role. Then there's lots of learning opportunities as well. Income isn't fixed, which can be a real benefit. I find that opportunities can often be more creative. You are your own marketing department, your social media team. So you have some real opportunity there to be kind of really creative, design, whatever. You're responsible for your own success, so it really is driven from you, which I find really freeing and very exciting. I'm not waiting for somebody to tell me kind of what I can and can't do. There's a real level of detachment as well around freelance that you don't necessarily get in-house. So that idea of like, I don't know, just doesn't feel as, I don't know what it is. It's like, if you're working on projects, for a client, you're kind of got often a fixed start and end date. You don't get so kind of drawn into some of the stuff that might happen in-house, like the internal politics and the hierarchies, and you're a freelancer. It feels different. Definitely less internal politics. That's a real benefit. You can reinvent yourself if you want. You can see this as a real opportunity to press like a reset button and create something totally new. You could be someone completely different. And you really get to know yourself better on this. I mean, it really is like a mental journey, like in both kind of definitions. But you really do get to learn more about yourself. So yeah, it's amazing. It has many, many benefits, but of course there are some drawbacks too. So some of the drawbacks, and again, you might want to jot down some of these that resonate the most for you. Yeah, you get to know yourself better. That can also be a drawback. It is a benefit, but it can also be a drawback. I mean, I have gone on such a big personal development growth kind of journey through doing this work on myself, because it feels quite personal. Like you are responsible. And unless you're kind of quite a resilient person and you can kind of learn to have quite a thick skin, it can feel quite personal. If you get a no, you put your heart and soul into a proposal for a piece of work, or you thought you were going to get something agreed and it all falls through at the end, or maybe somebody just ghosts you entirely and you don't hear from them again. That can feel pretty crap. Like it can feel pretty rubbish. So having to get used to that kind of rejection is a big part of the journey. It can feel lonely sometimes, like absolutely can be. You don't have that team when something goes really well. You don't have that team around you, like high-fiving, yay, well done, well done. You have to be kind of your own cheerleader a lot of the times. You don't get that. You don't get regular income, obviously. It's not a set amount of money. Unless you've set up your freelance kind of work in a way that you get the same. I think it would be very hard. I can't imagine any situation where you would get the same income every month. I just can't think of one, unless you were in very long-term kind of arrangements with organizations where they've paid you a set amount. I suppose that could be a situation. Most of the time is going to be up and down. You don't get those other benefits either, the leave, the sick pay. You have to pay for all of that yourself, the insurance, all of those things that your organization would have paid for previously. And it might be quite a slow burn to begin with. And I think getting your head around that is really helpful. I definitely thought things were going to happen quicker than they did in the first year. But what that first year really allowed me to do was experiment, right? So it really allowed me to kind of test some different ideas. And actually, how the year turned out was so different to what I'd expected it to be, but it was better for that. So having that kind of like, healthy kind of detachment really of sort of, this is what I would love it to look like, but if it didn't look like that, that's okay too. Because you learn all the time, you're learning. And it is uncertain. If you're looking for a certain gig, if you're looking for certainty and you want that certainty, I would say freelancing is not for you. It is not certain. But again, out of that uncertainty comes lots of other real benefits and real potential and opportunities. So getting kind of comfortable with some of those drawbacks, I think. Lack of development opportunities potentially that you would have had in-house. But again, I see that as a real benefit, that you can really then start to like hone in on what it is you want as an individual, rather than being kind of dictated to by an organization. It's like, actually, what do I want to learn? What do I want to learn more skills in? So there's some really incredible learning opportunities to be had when you work for yourself. So your first year or your next year, if you've been doing this a little while, it's definitely going to look different to how you thought it was. 100%. And like I said, I'm very inspired by that, because it means that I can kind of constantly test stuff. Things don't work out how I thought they would, I can ditch it or tweak it. I started my freelancing very much as a kind of traditional kind of event consultant. Like, this is the event fundraising that I'm doing, these are the projects that I'm offering. Benchmarking, writing reports, strategy. It felt quite traditional and quite old school. And after a bit of doing that, I was like, this actually isn't lighting me up that much. I'm not really loving this. It doesn't feel that different to what I was doing in-house. So I created a membership for event fundraisers, and I did that through COVID, and that ran for 2.5 years. And that was a completely new idea that just came to me whilst talking to lots of clients, and again, I could not have foreseen that just was not in my future at all. But that was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity to really kind of try something new out. You could train in something completely new. Don't overthink stuff. This is really, really key. Like, it's very easy to get caught up in your own head about your journey and how it should look. I would just say, just get rid of that should. Like, get rid of it. Erase it. Rub it out. Like, there is no should. Because again, this could look in a million different ways, and leading into that, not comparing yourself with others. Like, that's a really, really big one. I spent so much time looking at other people's Instagram, looking at other people's LinkedIn posts, looking at all the things that they said they were doing and achieving, and I just compared myself, and ultimately I was falling way below, because I was comparing myself with somebody who was at step 8 and I was at step 1. It's like chalk and shit. You can't compare those two things. So really what I should have been focusing my energy on was just the next step in front of me, rather than comparing myself to someone who had been doing it much longer and was much further ahead. Path of least resistance is one of my favorite sayings. Start where there is the path of least resistance. What you're going to find most easy, most flowy, and start there. Build as you fly, again, is a kind of little motto that I use a lot. So what that actually means is you're delivering your work, you're kind of out there doing your work, working with your organizations, individuals. You're also still building the engine at the back. You're kind of continuing to, you're not waiting to build all of this before you start delivering and start flying your plane. Does that make sense? That's that kind of concept. These things should always be in tandem, and they will continue to be so. Like, I probably spend as much time working on my business as in my business, like 50-50, which might surprise you, but that's kind of where I try and get to. I think that's a healthy kind of ratio. It will look different depending on the kind of work that you want to go into. Obstacles are going to come up. You're going to be faced with challenges. They're just to view them more as kind of detours, but you're still kind of heading in the right direction. I think that's kind of helpful advice. And be open to those creative solutions. You really don't know what's around the corner, and that's really exciting. So I think I said no to so much stuff at the beginning. I probably, yeah, I shut down a lot of opportunities because I was like, it doesn't look quite how I think it should look, there's that should again, and because of that, I said no to things. Whereas what I've learned to do now is be like, well, that sounds really interesting. Let's jump on a call, find out more, and see if I can help, And actually, through being able to listen to what it is that they need, often I'm able to kind of spot other opportunities there. It might be slightly different. And so what would have been a no then becomes a yes, So thinking about that. Yeah, and as I'd sort of already said, just thinking around kind of, you're not in 9 to 5 anymore. And that's really exciting. It can also be a bit scary, but you don't have to be at a desk between 9 and 5, Monday to Friday. You can carve your week out in any way that suits you. You could just work weekends if you wanted, you could just work mornings, just work afternoons, 2 days a week, whatever. There's, again, so many different ways of doing it. I did some training in March, and for the first time ever, I decided to do a Saturday morning session. And again, it was just like, I'm just going to try it and see if people show up. And they did. And it was a really nice vibe. There was something really fun about doing it on the weekend. So that will be something that I do more of. And just getting out of that kind of like traditional, very old school kind of, this has to happen between these hours. It doesn't, so yeah, you can have some fun with it. You do you, basically. Okay, just conscious of time, so I'm just going to start talking now about how you're going to identify what 3 things to kind of focus on first, because I've covered quite a lot there, and there's quite a lot of different concepts to think about for yourself. This is a really helpful exercise that I get my charity freelance course students to do. So if I waved a magic wand, what would you wish for? So you have a think about that, write it down. And when this is finished, you can go away and just kind of journal on it. So if I waved a magic wand, what would you wish for? And I want you to think about this in the context of like nobody getting angry, disappointed, pissed off, like no one's going to be annoyed or fed up with you. It's a complete blank sheet of paper. What would you wish for? What would you do? What would you be doing? What would you be believing? What would people be saying about you and your work? And it could literally be just jotting out all the ideas, like everything that maybe there'll be things hidden in there that you didn't even kind of realize, like, I don't know, something completely different, setting up a bakery, making my own candles, maybe you've always wanted to teach, and train. Maybe you wanted to facilitate workshops. Maybe you want to do in-person events. Maybe you want to do one-to-one, like coaching and mentoring. Maybe it looks completely different entirely. Maybe you just want to work with the large organizations, very small ones. But really just thinking about as many different opportunities and possibilities. And this is just for your eyes, so you can have some real fun with that. What income would you like to be generating? Is this a side hustle, or is this your main gig? You're going to be still doing a bit of part-time work alongside your freelance, like whatever it could be, like there are no rules here. What days, hours do you want to work? And if you find this question really hard to approach, which I know it can be, because we're not really used to being asked what we want as grown-ups. It doesn't really happen. And often it doesn't happen because when we were children, we were probably told you get what you're given, get what you're given. Don't be greedy, don't ask for more. But actually, I'm going to ask you to kind of unpick that a little bit and really just get clear on what it is that you want. So if you find that really hard to do, approach it from the opposite. So these are the things I definitely don't want, and you might be moving out of quite a toxic working environment. That's very easy to kind of approach it from that. What I don't want. This is what I don't want. And then on the other side of the paper, so therefore this is what I do want, it's like the opposite. I don't want to be sat in long meetings, I don't want to, whatever it might be for you. And yeah, like I said, this is just for your eyes, so you can have some real fun with it. We're often used to putting ourselves you know, putting up with our lot and just like put up with what we've been given. We're used to putting other people in ahead of us and diminishing our kind of own wants and desires. But really, for this, it's great to put that stuff forward, you know. And then you can start creating an amazing business for yourself. So you've got the magic wand question: what work would you be doing, believing, saying about your work? And once you've done those journals, and I would say just go wild with it. Like, spend a bit of time doing this. Really write as much down. When I've done this before, I've written pages and pages and pages. You know, right, I want to write a book, I want to create a retreat, I want to do this, I want to do that. Just really get clear on all of that. And then I want you to think about what 3 areas you're going to focus on first. And again, start where there is the least resistance. What can you make a start on straight away? And I'd love you to have made a kind of pledge to yourself, maybe by the end of today, maybe by the end of this week, to have started on one of those tasks. Because like I said at the beginning, that is what is going to give you the confidence, right? It's starting. It's a messy action. It's not waiting for things to be perfect. It won't happen, you know. It's not waiting to feel ready, because ready isn't a feeling. Ready is decision. You'll get that confidence through taking action. So maybe you're able to, you know, you could start emailing your network about meeting up for a coffee. Maybe you can start updating your LinkedIn profile. Maybe you can write a post out saying what your plans are, or that you'd like to talk to some people about this idea, and would anyone be around for a chat? Or maybe it's setting up a business bank account, or so there's many things that you could do. And I know that taking action can feel a bit scary, especially to start with, but small steps done consistently is going to get you way further forward than doing absolutely shed loads on one day and then nothing. So just think about it like you're sowing seeds, constantly sowing seeds. And I would love to know if you've done that. Send me an email, send me a message, let me know how it's gone and what your kind of pledge is. I'd really be interested to hear that. And I am offering a 20% discount on the charity freelancing course at the moment. So if that is something you'd be interested in, also drop me a message, drop me an email, drop me a DM in LinkedIn, or I think you might be able to do it on here, I'm not sure. And I will send you the details of the charity freelancing course. I know I've run over, so I'm going to leave it there. People can go off and get their lunch. But I hope that's been helpful. I will be doing these weekly, although I haven't got my day set yet. So like or subscribe, I think subscribe to the channel, and then you will get notified when I go live, in case I forget to put it on LinkedIn or get the wrong time like I did with today's. Anyway, thank you, so nice to see you. Thanks, Jill, and I will have a good week. Thanks, Laura, and I will talk to you soon. See you in all the places. Take care, have a good day.